state attorney's office that when you first hear it, you know it's got to be true. And you go, well, how do you know it's got to be true? Well, you can't make up this stuff. So we have this gentleman by the name of Chester Kwitowski, who claims to be an expert witness in computer forensics. We call him Chester who defends the molesters. He specializes in defending those that are criminally charged with dealing in child pornography, and he recently testified in a case for the criminal defendant who sexually battered children under the age of 12. His expert testimony was designed for and requested by the defense attorneys in an attempt to get their clients off of criminal charges. So here's what's interesting. Chester gave us a curriculum vitae that I will pass on to you. I say us, the system. He presented this information. The judge found, based upon his sworn testimony under oath, that it was accurate, that he was an expert witness, and allowed him to testify as such. That was not only in Polk County. But allow me to go down this vitae for you. He says he has a Master's of Science, 1992, University of South Florida, major studies, computer science engineering. False. Not only does he not have a master's degree of any kind, there is no such degree at the University of South Florida. They have two separate computer degrees, but not one as he describes. In case, certified forensic analyst. False. Cisco certified system engineer level 1 and 2. Cisco can find where he completed a training course and took a test, but nothing to indicate that there is or did he pass a certified engineer level 1 and 2. Cisco certified trainer. False. Apparently, Cisco only uses employees as trainers. Certified Novell systems engineer. False. Here's what's interesting. He has, and I'll stop a minute, then I'll get back to some more of what we know at this point in the investigation, which is not over. He represented not only the criminal suspects who were charged with molesting children and possessing child pornography in Polk County, but according to him, so this is suspect, whether or not it's 50 or not, he claims to have testified in at least 50 different state proceedings and federal proceedings as an expert witness in computer forensics. We know that, according to what he told us, that he has testified for private law firms and public defenders' offices throughout the Tampa Bay area, to include Hillsborough, Pinellas, Manatee, Pasco, and Polk. He also told us that he worked for NASA, that he's worked on the space station. NASA says, nope, no indication that he's ever worked for us. We even asked NASA, well, what if he worked for a contractor? They said we would have a record of that. So we went further through his system where he says he was an officer in the United States Air Force, computer data methodologies. So here's what we can find out. At this point in the investigation, we don't have the paper in our hand, but we currently have him here questioning him, and Chester, the defender of the molesters, is giving us a lot of different stories. He said he was an ROTC, and he was an Air Force officer for a year and a half. The preliminary records that we have at this point shows that he was in the military for 4 months and terminated. We are seeking the official records. He said why he was in the military, that he had a top secret clearance and a secret clearance. Military tells us he doesn't have any such clearances, never has had them. What we do know about him is, in addition to that, he goes further with this, and he says computer forensic services including drive analysis, data discovery, recovery, litigation service and support, IT expert, witness and case support, computer investigations and evidence handling to the following organizations: military and the federal government, FBI agencies, plural, federal and state cases, Hillsborough County agencies, private sector business, Florida, Maine, California, and North Carolina. He's arrested today. He lives in Tampa. We, in an undercover capacity, wanted to meet with him here in Polk County so that we could use him for an investigation, understanding not from a law enforcement perspective. He came over here and we took him into custody. He has been talking with us for well over an hour, and he's told us several variations of his curriculum vitae. He's tried to talk around a lot of the issues. So far at this point, we have nailed him down to where he said, no, I didn't have a master's degree. And he's weakening on his position that he worked for NASA on the space stations, in the military. He's quite a character. This investigation's still underway. In complete disclosure here, we're not sure to what degree any of this is true or what may be absolutely 100% false or what may be a figment of his imagination and what may be fact. We're still trying to sort that out, and we certainly will be consulting with other agencies that he appeared against them in court or depositions, and we're making them aware of where he is in the process with us. So as one of the things to give you an idea, when we're drilling down on him and trying to talk to him about his Cisco certifications, because apparently he took a class and a test, but his Cisco certifications, he says, well, when it comes to the Cisco certification, in my mind's eye, I have it. That's not a person. That's an expert witness in court. And when we pressed him a little harder on some of his military and some of his degrees, he says, it sounds like to me someone's trying to erase me. Now understand what is so freaky about this and what's so scary about this. This goes to the heart of our judicial system. When we swear people in as experts to testify under oath, we expect the truth. We have to have the truth. The court and the appellate process is where we get to the facts of the matter, ostensibly in an unvarnished manner. And he has devastated that system with his fiction, where he's proven himself not to be an expert witness. But here's what's interesting. Not only did private attorneys and clients pay him, but when he worked for the various public defenders' offices, the taxpayer pays for that expert witness. So he's ripping off the taxpayer and the community, as well as creating an environment where He is providing, at least in the Polk County cases, testimony in the best interest of the defendant, trying to usurp justice. Well, let me tell you this. It's not working so well for him in Polk County. Let me tell you why it's not working well for him. Because our experts sat in depositions and listened to some of the things he was testifying about as fact, and they know the science of those issues and go, wait a minute, that's not just a differing opinion on a subject, that's just not accurate. That's not right. So as a result of that, we authorized a background investigation and a criminal investigation when we suspected that he was saying things that weren't truthful under oath. I can tell you this. He may not be a computer forensic expert, but what we're going to do is make him a social confinement engineer. SCE, it's a new degree that I'm going to implement at the county jail, you see, and he started his lesson today in being socially confined for inappropriate conduct. And I think it's probably about a 40-month program when you look at what time he can get in the county jail or the state prison system. He falsified or testimony under oath in a capital felony case, which means that testimony is a second-degree felony. The rest of the 5 charges are third-degree felony charges. So he's looking at, according to the numbers, mandatory state prison time. Now, we went back and checked his criminal history. You know, he projects himself as this expert, but he does have experience being locked up. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office arrested him. The Pinellas Park Police Department arrested him. In 2001, he has an arrest history for domestic violence, battery. 2003, history by Hillsborough Sheriff's Office, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. How about this in 2007? Pinellas Park PD, false report of a crime. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Our expert witness has been lying to the police since at least 2007. As soon as we finish interviewing him, we're going to put him in handcuffs and start him on his way to his new addition to his false curriculum vitae. And it has to do with being a social confinement engineer. Just saying. And, by the way, he will have an official government number and photograph to show that he was in that class. Any questions?
How would nobody catch him, especially if he has a criminal background?
It is amazing to me. We encountered this person as he's popped up all of a sudden in our judicial circuit presented by the defense attorneys as an expert with what, if it were truthful, would be an impressive resume. And once this information is presented as fact, then the judge certifies him as an expert. Quite frankly, we were having a meeting, the sheriff's office, state attorney's office, and going over this vitae, and I looked at this and I went, I've never heard of an expert in this stuff like this. Have we dug in on this guy to see what it is? I mean, the detectives are saying he's testifying to stuff that just isn't accurate in any form and fashion. And we did, because we suspected he was lying under oath. And what we found is material evidence that he lied under oath about this CV. Now, some of this stuff is still under investigation. We have not confirmed some of it in writing, some of it's confirmed verbally, some of it we do have the documents back. And quite frankly, otherwise, we would have taken longer to complete this investigation before we arrested him. But we had to get him out of the expert field as quickly as we could, because who knows what other cases that Chester, who represents the molester, may be involved in.
How could this affect those cases?
Well, you know, he was testifying in the best interests of the defense. Certainly the defense would have the option now through the rules of criminal or civil procedure, depending on the courts, to move for different sanctions or different actions or potential retrials. But it would seem to me that the defendants wouldn't want to do that, because the case against them would only become stronger with their fictitious witness out of the way.
Do you think any of them knew that they were hiring this guy and he wasn't qualified? Do you think this is like some sort of?
I just don't know, but I know that he seemed to be a very, very well-spoken of individual in our county jail by those we've charged with sex-related crimes against children.
So, did his testimony, do we know, did it impact any of those cases at all?
I can tell you that the cases that I'm familiar with, it didn't impact it in the sense of at a trial whether the person was found not guilty. That doesn't mean there's not some. But how many cases were pled out when we looked at his testimony and we thought, well, with his testimony, maybe we ought to take a plea on this and get something rather than take a chance of going before a jury. He damaged the validity of the criminal justice system with his lies. But, once again, should the defendant want to appeal and have a new trial? I suspect not, because he was testifying for them in their best interest. So, at the end of the day, I suspect not. And if there are those that were found not guilty, we can't retry them anyway.
So this guy testified on behalf of the defense. So
In our county, every time. We don't see any evidence where he testified for the prosecution.
he's potentially hurting kids that have already been hurt. What you're talking
Exactly.
about.
So, is there any responsibility of a defense attorney or anything to do background checks?
I would think so. Would you, as an attorney, want to go in court using this guy as your subject matter expert with what we have discovered? You know, and it doesn't take a lot of deep digging to figure out at least a portion of this is false, if not the majority of it.
Could any of those defense attorneys be facing any charges for anything? I mean, just for not doing their due diligence or anything illegal that they did?
I don't think that they did anything illegal unless they operated with criminal intent. Excuse me. But there certainly would be sanctions by the bar if they put someone up there. I mean, it would be all kinds of bad issues for attorneys who are officers of the court if they put people up there knowing better. We don't see any evidence of that at this point. But the investigation's not over. And we know that not only have they ripped off the taxpayers, but we know that there are cases in these other counties that he has allegedly testified against. Once again, we're so new into this, we haven't had time to dig into those cases, but we plan to contact the officials there and go, hey, did this guy work on any cases for or against you?
And that was Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco,
And Manatee.
and Manatee?
Any other questions?
He testified at the federal level too?
He said he did. And once again, we have not had time to vet out everything that he said, and he's told us another probably hour or hour and a half worth of what we consider unmitigated baloney. There may be some fact to it, but that's going to take us some time to work through today as well. It frustrates me, though, because we all show up at court, all of us, to tell the truth. And when you have someone who has successfully created this ruse, conned themselves into an expert position, it frustrates the system. And he's going to be held accountable for that.
It's hard to grasp, though, the effect that it could have had on the justice system and the outcome of any cases. I mean, do you know of any possible repercussions to those lawyers? It just seems like there should be something that holds someone accountable other than just him.
We're just over a week, maybe 2 weeks into this investigation. I can assure you, if we find evidence that any criminal defense attorney put him on the stand, put him under oath, knowing that he wasn't telling the truth, we will bring upon him, that attorney, all the attention that the law allows, or that the bar, the criminal bar, or the state bar allows. But once again, in all fairness to these attorneys, we haven't seen any of that yet. There's obvious evidence that they didn't dig deep enough. They accepted him on face value when they looked at this. And quite frankly, to just get right down to the bottom line, when they start talking about the science of computers, there's a very limited number of people who know fact from fiction. I've got some of the best working for me here who said, time out. That's not the way it works. And that's what started the suspicion. Okay? Thank y'all very much. I enjoyed y'all being with us today. This was a little different, gave you a break from Mosaic.